I had a troll come to me recently and said, why don't I talk more about black on black crime? Because black on black crime is not the leading problem in America. Although you caucasoids in your propaganda machine, the mainstream media, try to make it appear that way. But some of us that are way, way more awakened and we are aware of what's going on in America, you're not going to pull that one over on us. So if you need to hear about black on black crime, I suggest you go to another channel. On this channel, we are going to focus on what the biggest problem is in America, and that is your opioid plague. Not only is it a problem, ladies and gentlemen, in America, it is the biggest drug problem on earth. America leads the world in drug overdose deaths by a lot. And this article came out on Vox.com, June 28th, 2017. America has about 4% of the world's population, but 27% of the world drug overdose deaths. That, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty sad. America has the biggest drug overdose deaths in the entire planet. And these are mostly caucasoids. Black people are not leading in drug deaths in America. Not even close. We're not even close to you. Although you're trying to make the 4% of the black people that are on opioids a big deal, but we know that's not a big deal. Your deaths have far exceeded that. That's one of the startling conclusions from a recent report by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Statista charted the results, and as you can clearly see, the U.S. is in the lead. North America, so this now filters in Canada because the caucasoids up in Canada are also having a problem. And as you can see, all the way down the chart. Do you know South Africa is also having an opioid problem, ladies and gentlemen? They deserve it. They deserve it. Okay. The U.S. has always been ahead of much of the world in drug overdose deaths for a variety of reasons. For one, Americans are relatively wealthy, so they can afford to buy drugs. But there's also appears to be a cultural and socioeconomic factors at play, driving a broader increase in deaths of despair, such as suicides, alcohol, drug overdose deaths in recent years. And we know all this stuff. Oh, jobs went overseas, poor healthcare access, that kind of stuff. We already know that. But recently, America has gotten much worse in its massive opioid plague, which has contributed to a huge spike in drug overdose deaths over the past decades. In 1999, fewer than 17,000 people died from drug overdoses. In 2015, that grew to more than 52,000 people. This is why I don't talk about black on black crime, because black on black crime is not the problem in America. It is the caucasoids on drugs is your biggest problem in America. Not only are you the biggest junkies, you are the biggest nuisance out in society. Your drug addicts are causing all kinds of car accidents. They have killed people out on the road. They have injured people. They have jumped the curb and ran people over. Your junkies are robbing pharmacies. They're robbing banks. They're robbing people's homes. So you're not just being a drug addict, but being harmless to everybody. You are being a complete nuisance and also a killer as a junkie. That's the problem, not black on black crime. This is, for now, largely a white American problem. Okay, I'm going to throw it in there because that's what it is. After pharmaceutical companies heavily market their opioids in the US and doctors followed through with massive numbers of prescriptions, America became the world's leader in consuming opioids, with UN data putting the US at the top of the opioid consumption. And as you can see in the dark blue on top, America just trumps all other countries on earth when it comes down to drug overdose deaths, including Canada. Canada's right behind because they're part of North America. The same drugs that are being trafficked into America is being brought into Canada as well. Okay, these folks have no right to talk to any black person about black on black crime or this fabricated black on white crime and all this other stuff that you could try to put on the black community. Okay, calling us niggers is not the worst thing that can happen, but your drug deaths are certainly far worse than being called a nigger, okay? So all of your little bags of tricks that you got is just simply not going to work. And I laugh because, see, these caucasoids are also upset because the world don't like them like they used to. Not only are they taking a lot of criticism here in America, they're taking a lot of criticism outside of America. They're getting called out on a lot of things. And they are so fragile. They are upset that the world just don't love them like they used to. And it serves them right. What have you done to deserve to be loved by everybody? Not a damn thing. So what you're getting, you deserve every ounce of it. Okay, America leading the entire globe in drug deaths, ladies and gentlemen. Pass it on, ladies and gentlemen, pass it on. But don't let them get in your face again with no black on black crime. That's not leading in anything in America. I don't care how much they keep trying to fake it up on their media. All right, the two charts then are closely tied as America consumed more opioids and the drug overdose deaths climb. So it began to dominate the world on a very grim statistic. Okay, so in 2015, Americans died of drug overdoses more on that year than, any other time, which was 52,000 deaths. And that same year, there were 38,000 people that died in car crashes, 36 died from gun violence, 36,000 died from gun violence, and 43,000 and HIV/AIDS during the epidemic's peak in 1995. So they have far exceeded any black on black crimes that another black person died at the hands of a black person. Black on black crime deaths have pretty much been leveled for the past few decades. The last time I looked, it was like 4,300 black people died at the hands of another black person. And they got the nerve to make a big deal out of that when 52,000 of them died in 2015, and they got the nerve to come and talk about some black on black crime. These people are a joke. They are so stupid. This is the latest drug plague. However, is not solely about illegal drugs. It began, in fact, with a legal drug. And we know that the doctors prescribing the opioids, and then they turn from that to the heroin and the fentanyl out on the street. We know that. That's like old news for people on my channel. Painkillers proliferated, landing in the hands of just not patients, but teens rummaging through their parents' medicine cabinet. You know what? When I was a teenager and my parents were on medicine, because I had both my mom and dad in the house. I didn't grow up in a single family home that a lot of you caucasoids also try to imply by Black people. We all have fathers, okay? We couldn't have got here without a father. I never thought of rummaging through any medicine cabinet looking for drugs to take. I just never did that as a teenager. In fact, I hardly wanted to take a pill. Okay, I was not one of those people into take. I barely want to take one now. I would prefer to use a natural remedy over taking a whole bunch of pills from a doctor. So that's their teens doing that. I don't believe it's a lot of Black teens doing that kind of stuff. Other family members and friends of patients and the Black market. As a result, opioid overdose deaths trend upwards, sometimes involving opioids alone, other times involving drugs like alcohol, benzodiazepines. By 2015, opioid overdose death totaled more than 33,000. Close to 2/3 of all drug overdose deaths. And you can see on this chart from New York Times how it's trend upward. And they're now projecting that 65,000 people have died from drug overdose deaths in 2016, but those numbers will not be out until December. Seeing the rise in opioid misuse and death, officials have cracked down on prescription painkillers. Law enforcement, for instance, threatened doctors with incarceration and the loss of their medical license if they prescribe drugs. Yeah, well, we've seen this already. I already did a story on was a woman doctor, a white female doctor, and she got arrested for writing all types of scripts for opioids for people that didn't even need them. So we have seen this already. And she lost her license. Okay, ideally, doctors should still be able to get painkillers to patients who truly need them. After, for example, evaluating whether the patient has a lot of history of drug addiction. But doctors who weren't conducting even such basic checks are now being told to give more thought to their prescriptions. Yet many people who lost access to painkillers are still addicted. Some who no longer obtain painkillers, so we know they turn to street drugs that can't get a script from their doctor. And we've heard that a million times. All right. That doesn't mean cracking down on painkillers is a mistake. It appeared to slow the rise in painkiller deaths, and it may have prevented doctors from prescribing the drugs to new generations of people with drug use disorders. Now, listen to this. This is what I found interesting, but likely solution is to get opioid users into treatment. But listen to how many they got into treatment in 2016. According to a 2016 report by the Surgeon General, just 10% of Americans with a drug use disorder obtain specialty treatment. So the other 90% remained out here running around on drugs. And remember, only 50 to 90% of the time they are successful in kicking the habit. I'm sorry, 50 to 90% of the time after treatment, they go back to the drug within the first week after finishing rehab. So it might be 10% that went through the treatment, but I bet you that number is very small as far as how many actually stayed off the drug after treatment, because most of them go right back to the drug. So treatment is really not effective in America. They have to really want to be off of the drug and go back to living a normal life. And that is extremely difficult. Okay, so difficult that the average drug addict does not achieve it. So federal and state officials have pushed for more treatment funding, including medication assistant treatment like methadone. Okay, well, some states, such as Louisiana and Indiana, have taken a tough on crime approach that focuses on incarcerating drug traffickers. But the incarceration approach has been around for decades, and it hasn't stopped the massive drug plague like the current crisis. So please don't come back with the black on black crime and post that. You guys don't see it, but I do when I go through the messages to approve them. They always got something in there, either pertaining to niggers and this and that. And niggers are not the problem in America. Okay. The problem is the Caucasoid community and your drug addiction. That is the biggest problem in America. It's not black on black crime. It's not anything black people are doing, in fact. It is a Caucasoid American problem, and it is the biggest problem on earth. You just want me to talk about black on black crime so you can feel all good and fuzzy on the inside, and I'm not going to do it because that's not the leading problem in America, nor has it ever been the biggest problem in America. So I don't care how much you keep trying to talk about it, and your Nazi media keep trying to talk about it too, because I dismiss both of you. So if you are interested in black on black crime, then you need to seek out a coon on YouTube and go sit yourself at their channel and listen to them. But I have a certain agenda on my channel, and that agenda does not include black on black crime. And if I did want to talk about black on black crime, I will talk about that to black people only, not you. Please leave your comments and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family.